Hey, everybody, welcome to Grilling at the Green here on the West Coast and some in the Central States and on the Golf News Network on their channel on iHeart. How is your golf game? Well, if it's like mine, could always use a little improvement. Um, we've got a special guest with us today, Jared Doerfler from Hana Golf out of Iowa. Jared's got a really interesting story. He stopped doing what he was doing and decided to mill putters. And I'm totally fascinated with this. So, Jared, welcome to the show.
Jeff, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So, we kind of followed each other, connected on LinkedIn, I think, and then I've checked out some stuff. You probably did the same thing. But what is this backstory on why you did this?
Yeah, it's been a long journey. The backstory, there's a lot of different, I guess, interwebs that go into this of why I decided to do this. That at the end of the day, it really begins with we only really have one life to live. We're only on this rock one time.
Right.
And the entrepreneur bug had been biting me for a while, and so I decided to take the plunge and quit my job and buy a couple CNC mills, empty the bank account, and teach myself how to use them and make and sell golf putters.
And what did your wife think of that?
My wife is awesome. She's 150% supportive the whole time. It really kind of goes back to college, Jeff. So I walked on at the University of Northern Iowa to play golf, and when I got there, I was putting with the wrong putter. So my coaches took us into the lab, and after about three putting strokes, my coach left. He came back with a prototype that he dusted off. It hadn't been used in a while, so he got this putter off a tour truck that he played at. He played at a PGA Championship at some point in the '90s, and so he gave it to me, and my putting improved dramatically. So when I left college, I gave it back to him because it's not mine. So every year, Jeff, I would look on eBay or Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist. I try to find this putter, and I can never find it. And so I was just bored one winter night in Iowa and said, let's just sketch it up and see what happens. So I sketched it up and had my brother-in-law make it in CAD for me, sent it off to machine shop in Texas, and they made something for me. Now, there's no way I could sell what I originally drew up and had made. I'd probably have to pay people to
Right.
buy it or to use it. But that was about 2.5 years ago, and I really enjoyed that process. So, when the time came to do something, I just kind of had that in the back of my head that was a fun project to work on. So let's just take it full scale.
Had you had any experience, maybe not making putters, but designing other any type of pieces of equipment or product to that point?
No, so my prior job was I was a VP of sales, so like the worst person to try to get into something technical like this. Um, no, I'd never seen a CNC mill before, let alone run one. Never been inside CAD before. Never been inside CAM. So I taught myself those three things, which was a massive challenge. But it's been a lot of fun. It's been really rewarding so far.
Did you do it simply because of the inspiration of your coach, which is a very inspiring story, or did other people come to you and once they kind of got wind of what you were doing, Jared, and they said, I could use a Newport style putter or a Ping Answer putter or whatever it was. It doesn't matter. But did they come to you with those things and then you finally selected, three basic models, or how did that work?
Not so much, Jeff. So what happened is I've been writing a golf newsletter for about 3 years.
Right.
So my thing was, hey, look, if I'm going to quit my job and start a company, it has to be in the golf space. I love the industry. The people are extremely kind, and it's a cool spot to be. I love golf. It's a good passion to chase. The second thing that was a requirement for me was I had to make something myself. That was important that I am able to make it
Mm-hmm.
for a lot of different reasons. And so, those two things together, I'm like, well, what are those two? What do they equal? Well, it's golf putters. And so I started to do quite a bit of research on the equipment side and try to understand what the total adjustable market on putters was, and that's how we landed.
Huh. That's pretty fascinating, because there's some stories out there, Jared, that you hear. I know you're familiar with them. Somebody woke up in the middle of the night, they had an idea, and they threw it out there and it worked. Excuse me, but they really didn't do the research, the market research, the technical aspect that you've done to teach yourself CAD and the milling machines and all that. That's way above the pale, so to speak. And sometimes people get lucky, but more than not, they don't. They have a modicum of success, and then whatever, they lose interest, or uh, a big company comes in and swoops it away from them, what have you. There's a million stories like that. But I find it fascinating that you were so focused on your designs and your original design to come up with something and actually see it through. I'm familiar with your newsletter. I was talking to a friend of mine, Ted Simons from Scottsdale. He takes your newsletter. Um, and I asked him if he knew about you, and he said, "Oh, yeah, yeah, I take his newsletter, and like that's a great story." Um, but I just find it fascinating because some people don't have the moxie, Jared, to do that.
Yeah, you're right. I think a lot of things that I've learned about my newsletter is that you don't have to be the smartest person. I'm certainly not. You don't have to have the best idea, because I certainly don't. But what you need to have is consistency and discipline. And you have to have consistency to show up and write that newsletter every week. And the same is for putters. You have to have consistency to see it through. And for me, I really had this crucible moment when my dad announced his retirement last year, and kind of hit me that life goes by fast. And my dad was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in 2012, and he can't really do the things that he'd like to do in retirement,
Sure.
and which is a huge bummer. Could always be worse, of course, and he's done okay with the disease, but it stinks. We never know how life is going to shake out for us, so why not give it a run?
Yeah. I think a lot of people, Jared, not preaching to the choir here, but I think a lot of people don't kind of appreciate living in the moment and going forward. They tend to look back or whatever, and we certainly can't tell people how to live. But you're absolutely right. You get one trip on this rock, and better make the best of it, which I think you're doing there. It's really how is the golf community overall uh accepted this? I know you're just kind of getting started. It's early in the game, but how is the golf community itself responding?
It's been very positive so far. I've been thrilled with the response. I'm honestly like blessed and very humbled.
Well, that's great. That's great. Now, did you go through the process of like dealing with the USGA as far as conformity of that, or has it got to that point yet?
No, that's a really good question. So I'm in the process of doing that right now. So as far as I understand the laws from the USGA from conformance, all my putters conform. Of course, I want to send them in to make sure that they are conforming. But yeah,
Right.
I'm in the middle of that process right now.
That can take a little time. Um, but if you've done your homework on that, I don't think you're going to have any problem. Hey, we're going to take a break, and Jared Doerfler from Hana Golf and I will be back in a minute. But first, I want to say thanks to the folks at Painted Hills Natural Beef who made this segment possible. Beef the way nature intended, and also the Oregon Crab Commission from Sea to Plate. They're a supporter of this show, and also the television version of this show, which will be coming out a little bit later this year on Golf News Net television. So Jared and I are going to take a break. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. Don't go away. You're listening to Grilling at the Green. Okay.
I'm doing all right, Jeff. I'm battling.
Okay. All right. Here we go. Welcome back to Grilling at the Green. Today we're talking with Jared Dorfler from Iowa on Hana Golf, new putters that are hitting the market right now. It's pretty interesting. Jared, this is the point in the show where I ask almost every guest, unless they've been like Van Sickle or one of those guys who's on frequently. Um, for a travel tip, you've obviously, if you played college golf, you traveled. I'm sure you traveled with your family. You traveled with friends to play golf and that. And so, what would be a good golf travel tip from Jared Doerfler?
Put an AirPod in your travel case of your golf bag.
There you go. There you go. Who else did said that? One of the lady golfers from the LPGA tour, she said that too. And that she was the first time, and you're the second time I've heard it. And I thought that was a great idea. We want to thank the folks at Weston Kia for supporting the golf travel tip. You can find out more about them. Just go to westonkia.com in Gresham, Oregon. So we're talking with Jared Dorfler today from Hana Golf. How'd you come up with the name of Hana? Is that your wife's name?
No, it's a really good question, and that's a pretty close guess there, Jeff. I have 2 daughters.
Ah,
One named Johanna and one named Harriet. So I pretty much shortened Johanna's name to Hana, but I can lie to Harriet and let her know that it starts with an H. So
you just hope she never listens to this show then. So
yeah, exactly.
be good about it. The when you start something like this, Jared, did you have people say, "Are you out of your mind? You quit a good job." Like you said, you emptied the bank account to buy some equipment. We kind of covered some of that in the first segment, but did people come up and say, "Jared, sit down. We got to talk. What in the hell are you doing here?"
No one was that forward with me, but I definitely had a few people that said, is this a great idea? Putters, how many are actually sold? Does this make a lot of sense to actually do? So I've had some of it. No crazy stories or nothing that put a chip on my shoulder because of it, but
Yeah.
there's a few question marks out there, a few blank stares when I told people what I was up to.
Now I read on the website and stuff you were talking about. You were making the putters. I think your wife was helping you with the packaging to get them shipped. That story you talk about, well, it just came out in your newsletter too. Um, 50 the first week. Did you suspect that that would happen, or did that just kind of blindside you in a good way?
No, I thought I would sell 5 putters, if I was lucky. And talking to some friends before I launched, I said I'd rather sell 0 than 100. And I don't know if that's just me and a lack of self confidence or what, or having some self doubt and trying to play it down. But I was worried when I started selling. And I got to 22 the first day that I launched, and then 15 the next day. I was worried because I want to make sure that I hold up my end of the bargain with the customer, and then I get them a quality product in time. And
Sure.
so, yeah, I was blown away by the response and by the support of the golf community. Um, Very, very grateful and honestly, and very humbled by that. You never know how these things are going to go. I didn't tease anything out there. I didn't, I didn't really tell anybody out there in my audience or my newsletter, and
Right.
just kind of dropped it. And yeah, I had no idea what to expect. I'm glad that part's over with. That was giving me a lot of second thoughts and anxiety around that.
I always go back to that. I think it's maybe it's a UPS commercial or a FedEx commercial or something. Uh, People starting a new business and they flip the switch, so to speak, and they go live online, and then all of a sudden you see there's a chart for their sales, and it just kind of keeps going. And the first day, it's a great commercial, and they're kind of looking at each other and that like, this is great, but now what do we do? So I'm sure you
Right.
had those thoughts.
Right. Yeah. I had those thoughts, and I'm thinking, how am I going to get all these out the door? In that 10 to 14 day window, I'm just myself, and there's only so much that I can do. So, but we've managed to get every order out the door in that window so far.
Well, talk to me about the process. We got a couple minutes before we got to go to break, and we can pick it up on the other side. But do you would just buy, you know, chunks of stainless steel? I mean, and then you cut them and mill them, or how does that? I order a putter for you. So take me through the process of how I get my putter from Jared.
Yeah. So here, putter. I mean, you order it online, but how it happens, Jeff, is I order what's called billets of 303 stainless steel. So I order a specific block, a specific size for each different putter, and they come in. And then there's some prep that goes involved to getting that metal ready to mill. Mainly that prep is what's called squaring the block. And the reason why we have to have a square block is because I hold on to actual piece of the metal in the vise when I'm putting the hole in the line in. So to make sure that everything's perfectly square, we got to square those blocks off.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's 4 operations in each putter. So by that is it has to be set up 4 different ways. So when we mill them, and then after they come out of the mill, there's a small cleaning process, and then we take them to bead blast, clean them again, paint them, let that paint cure for 24 hours or so, and then shaft them, let that shaft cure for about 24 hours, and then cut down grip, and then once again, then we clean them, and then we package them and ship them out the door.
Wow. So do you have to, I mean, when you order the blocks of steel, um, how much do you know how to order? I mean, you're new in the game here, so you order in, I don't, well, I mean, what do they come in, 5-foot strips or something, or, and do you order 10 of them at a time for each different type of putter you're doing, or I'm just fascinated by that stuff.
Yeah, so I actually ordered the blocks that I'm ordering just on one of them, for example, is 2.5 by 1.25 by 4 inches. So they're ready to go in the mill, if you will. I'm not cutting them down with a bandsaw.
Okay. All right. Well, that's kind of like I said, anytime somebody builds something, ever since I was a little kid, I was always fascinated in how they do it. We're going to take another break. Jared and I will be back after this. You're listening to Grilling at the Green on GNN on iHeart and other stations. Stay with us. Welcome back to Grilling at the Green. I'm JT, Jeff Tracy, your host. Again, we'd like to thank the folks at Painted Hills Natural Beef, beef the way nature intended. We got our new sponsor on the show, as you can see by my hat, Squares Shoes. And I've got my first pair of Squares, and I'll tell you, I'm an old guy, and I got funky feet. When you get old, you get funky feet. That's just how I'm going to put it to you that way. And they are very, very comfortable. And also, lastly, Gorilla Grills. We use that more on the TV version, of course, but your experience with versatile outdoor cooking is complete with gas, pellets, or charcoal. Go to grilligrills.com. Okay, we're talking with Jared Doerfler today from Hana Golf. Where do you see yourself, hopefully, in, say, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years?
Oh, boy. Well, I'd love to have some more CNC mills, right? I'd love to scale up and purchase some more CNC mills, get a bigger space. I'm only in about 1,500 square feet right now with my 2 mills, and it's myself. So like to have some good people around me, some people that are probably better machinists and smarter than me. Yeah, I mean, I kind of like where we're at from a boutique standpoint. And I don't know if it's bad that I don't really have like a 10-year goal, but I just want to keep scaling it and growing it and seeing how far we can get.
Yeah. No, I get it. I mean, Bob Vokey with his wedges kind of started the same way, and look where he's at, and Karsten Solheim, same way with his putters and clubs. I think you're on the right track there, buddy. So
Yeah.
do you have any time to play golf anymore, Jared, or is that out the window?
Well, that's it. It's a really, yeah. I play about once every 2 weeks, which has been really good this year for me. So 2 young kids, and my wife's due with our third here in 2 weeks. So I won't be playing probably much golf this fall. I'll probably get a couple rounds in here and there, but I've never enjoyed golf more than right now. I'm 35, and when I left college, I didn't really play for 7, 8 years, and I fell back in love with golf in my late 20s, and it's been amazing.
I find that interesting, Jared. You're not the first person that's told me that they played, collegiate golf, whatever school they went to, and some of them took a shot at the pros. Most of them didn't. They put their sticks away for 5 or 10 years, sometimes longer. And then they went back, they picked it up. Hopefully they got new sticks if they put them in the closet 20 years ago, but you never know. And people seem to enjoy it as for really, I think, what the sport was designed for most people, which was to get out, enjoy it, relax, play with some buddies, whatever. I am glad to see you come back to that.
Yeah, for me it was difficult after I left because I'm so competitive and I'm not super talented, so I had to work hard to be good in college. So when I play after, I want to be very good. So
Yeah.
I've flipped that switch, which has been good.
Yeah. Do you let's go back to the putters for a second. Do you think you're going to have more designs?
Oh yeah, we're gonna roll with some more designs. I've got a fourth design right now that's prototype. Need to make some refinements to it, but oh yeah, we're gonna keep rolling out more designs.
Have you think I know it's, pretty early in the game, but you think some of the big guys are watching you too?
No, no chance.
Oh, come on.
No, I don't think so. They've got other things to worry about than a guy that sold 50 putters in 1 week. They do that in a couple hours.
I know that, but that number is, doing this show and working some golf shows and doing some of the things I do. You can go online and you can buy a $39 putter that looks like a $300 ping, if you will. They're not made the same, not the same material, whatever. But there's a lot of those out there, and a lot of it comes from overseas and stuff. But if you're hand milling that, Jared, and doing the CAD work and the finish work and all that, and you're doing 50 a week, just getting out the door, somebody's watching you. I'm going to guarantee it.
I hope
Not in a bad way. They're just interested.
I hope so. Trying to do things I think a little bit different in the space that I think some companies have done really well, which is provide great service and the person that buys a putter feels like that they can talk to the person that made it. Decades ago, each town had a local club maker.
Right.
You'd go to your club maker and you'd have that relationship with them. And even though this is not quite the same, I want people to have that feel where they can email in and they can tell me about their round with their putter, or they can send me a message and give me feedback on it and stuff like that, and I'll listen. So that's kind of what we want to do different, and I can afford to do that being small and starting out. When you scale, you kind of start to lose that customer relationship, especially when you start selling through channels,
Yes.
various retail channels.
Yeah, that is true. So did you actually pick one of your designs? It doesn't matter. But after you made the prototype, did you actually take it out to the course or a putting green and try it out and check the feel out? And maybe you did, or maybe you didn't do all the numbers that like TrackMan and all those things can do that they can do for putting also. But um, you were not only the creator, but you were the R&D guy, so to speak. How did you decide which of the three models you've got now? How did you decide on those? Because I'm sure you probably had other ones that you were kicking around in your brain. How did you decide that? Was that determined on the putting green, or was that just you just thought they looked cool?
Well, and again, that's a great question. I'm looking over at my graveyard, if you will. So yes, there were many iterations, and I did exactly what you described. Is I would try to make a putter as fast as I could, and then go test it. And what was important for me, Jeff, doesn't mean that I'm right or wrong, because putting is very subjective. But
Sure.
what's important for me is that I wanted it to sound good, and I wanted it to feel good. Right now, I wanted that sound, that audible, to be not like a high pitched noise when you hit metal. I want it to be like a very solid feel of a noise, if that makes sense. And then obviously from a feel standpoint, I wanted it to feel really good in your hands.
Right.
Hit a good putt. So those are the two things that are most important to me. And I'm lucky enough that I've got a lot of friends that live around that like to play golf, and I would give it to them, and they would go play with a putter, and they would give me good feedback or negative feedback on something that needed to be changed. So the R&D process was really kind of homegrown with a lot of friends, about a dozen people that gave me good feedback on it.
So tell me, Jared, about the finish on the face of the putter. We see lots of different, sometimes we see like an etched design in it, lightly etched. We see inserts. Odyssey's got an insert in some of the putters and that. Did you consider any of that, or is because I've never seen one of your putters in person, obviously. What did you decide on the face, and did you ever consider putting an insert in, or because I have all kinds of putters like you, like in your graveyard. If you want, we've got at my house, we got what we call the golf and gun room. Because I used to do a lot of hunting, and so they're all in their cases locked up but there's stacks of putters, there's stacks of wedges over here, just a lot of junk, that's
Yeah.
what my wife calls it. But it seems to be a big deal now about putting inserts in certain putters. Long-winded question. I apologize for that.
No, you're good. For me, I wanted to mill a putter out of a solid block of 303 stainless and keep it that way. And here's why. My prior experience is manufacturing. The less that we have to make the less components we have made into a product, the finished product, the less that can go wrong in manufacturing, the less that will go wrong post manufacturing. So if we have weights, if we have insert, that increases our probability, although it may not be a high probability. It increases our probability that maybe we'll get a bad sound, a bad vibration in the future. Also, in manufacturing, it increases our probability that something will go wrong. So that was important to me, that we make a putter out of 303 stainless steel that was a solid block, and the putter is actually a solid block finish as well.
What do you? Gosh, excuse me. What are you doing for shafts?
It's I'm using a double bend shaft right now with how my putters are milled, and that's been a challenge, Jeff. So I only have one supplier for shafts. It's a steel shaft, but I'm excited because I'm going to be testing out some stability shafts here in the coming weeks, month or so, that I've got in my shop, and I'm going to see how that goes, and see how that improves the performance.
Good, excellent. We're going to take another break. Jared Doerfler and I will be back. Jared is the creator and the production manager and the gopher and the shop sweeper at Hana Golf in Iowa. Yeah, that's true. You don't just have one hat, buddy. You got a bunch of them. Anyway, we're going to take another break, and we're going to be back in just a couple minutes, wrap up the show, and then I'm going to hit Jared with some after hours stuff, which will be fun. You're listening to Grilling at the Green on iHeart. Welcome back to Grilling at the Green here on Golf News Net and stations in Portland and Seattle and all over. We want to thank you for listening and letting us share this time with you. Would also like to thank Hammerstall Knives and Heritage Cookware, and a lot of our listeners out there can appreciate this Oregon Dungeness crab. Whew. I don't know. You probably never had it, Jared, but if you ever come out to the West Coast, get yourself some Dungeness crab. It's great stuff. Your shaft design, some of them, the whole design of the putter, sometimes we see some crazy designs, and yours isn't. Well, I don't even know the proper term for it, but they come out of the body of the putter head, and some of them are kind of bent. Some of them, I've seen some that go 6 different directions. I don't know what the theory is behind that. Yours isn't one of those, but how do you come up with that design and the angulation and stuff?
So yeah, I mean, this is for those that are going to watch on video. I mean, this is what it looks like. Now, the reason why I don't have a plumber's neck on my putters, very simple, Jeff. Path of least resistance. Teach myself how to CNC mill. You put a plumber's neck on there, and if it's not welded, that becomes more difficult to set up. Something that I'm capable of doing with my machines and my knowledge now, but when I started a year ago, most definitely was not. So, all the putters have a double bend shaft that go directly into the putter head.
Right.
And as far as the designs, I really wanted a mallet, traditional mid mallet looking putter. I personally think that most amateurs should be putting with a mid mallet or a mallet putter. They have higher MOI. They're more forgiving.
Right.
And then I want to do a double wide blade. I've been really toying around with a double wide blade for the last 3-4 years, and the design kind of just spoke to me to do something a little bit different. Most double wide blades are as long as a blade, so they're going to be a little bit longer. But mine's about the width of a mid mallet or a mallet putter, so it's a little bit shorter. So, a good design from a face balance standpoint. Yeah.
So what's the weight on the head?
The weight on this one's 355 grams. So I have
Okay.
355, 365, and 368.
Okay. And how did you decide on the grips? I mean, people can change grips if they don't care for them, but how did you decide on which ones to utilize?
So I reached out to almost every grip company and no one responded back, except for Iomic. And I used an Iomic grip in college before I went to Super Stroke, and always enjoyed Iomic, had them on my wedges. But one thing I did want is I wanted a like a normal, like a pistol style putting grip.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to work with a company that wanted to work with me. So, and I understand why no one else got back to me. I'm a small, they probably get it all the time. They probably get emails and messages all the time about somebody starting a golf company. So, yeah, I'm working with Iomic right now, and they're doing a great job.
Well, good. Jared, how can people find you? I mean, I found you on online, of course, and people that listen to this show. Um, a lot of people that listen to this show listen to it this next week, and then after September, when they're wherever they live, their weather starts to change. They start thinking about getting different clubs and stuff. So you never know the residual effect of a show like this. But how can they find you?
Yeah, hanagolf.com. So HANNA golf.com. That's where you'll find us. We're also on Instagram and Twitter. Hana Golf Co. Is the handle for each of those. My email is all over the place on the website. If you have a question or
Yeah.
anything along those lines, feel free to shoot me a message.
How soon do you think you're going to bring out another design? We talked about the different designs, and you said you got one. You thought you were getting close.
Yep.
Yeah.
But my goal is, Jeff, I want to bring in another CNC mill before I drop that design. So
Okay.
my capacity, I want to make sure my capacity and my demand is good. I'm not going to understand what my demand is for a while. It's going to be skewed. But I'd like to start that process of another CNC mill here in the next month or two. And the lead times on those aren't super long, about 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah.
But once that comes in, we'll be likely dropping that design. So hopefully, if everything goes right, which manufacturing it doesn't, but if everything goes right, hopefully late fall, we have a fourth design.
Well, I'm wishing you the best, Jared. It takes a lot of guts, seriously, to do what you're doing. um, excuse me there, folks, but it does. And my hat's off to you, my friend, because you saw it, you jumped in with both feet, and you're doing it. And we need more people like that, not just in the golf world, in the world in particular. But I think you're doing a good job. Again, at hanagolf.com, Jared Doerfler is with us today. He's going to stick around for after hours. But thanks, Jared, for putting up with the abuse on the regular show here.
Thanks for having me on, Jeff. I enjoyed it.
No problem. We'll be back next week. Next week, we've got a special show with our TV reporter, Pat Boyle, and she got a chance to interview some ladies out at the Portland Classic last week. And so we're putting together a composite show of that. So that'll be coming up. And we've got some other great shows coming up anyway. So go out, have some fun, play some golf, and most of all, be kind. Take care, everybody. Hey everybody, welcome to After Hours here on Grilling at the Green. I'm JT. Today we're talking with Jared Doerfler from Hana Golf in Iowa. You guys get to play much golf in Iowa in the winter when you got 4 feet of snow?
No, golf doesn't happen November through February. if you're lucky, you can play in Iowa in some parts, no, in some in November at some point.
Yeah.
March you can play. Generally, it's hit or miss in March. Like this year, we played in March and it was like 70 degrees and sunny, and then the next week it snowed. So, yeah, it's a 3-4 month off in the winter.
Are the simulator places in the bars or places designed specifically for them? Are they doing well back there? Off the
Well,
topic of putters, but I'm just
yeah,
curious.
no, that's a great question because my buddies and I looked at doing that because I live in a small town, 25,000 people, and we didn't have anything until 2 years ago. No indoor golf at all. And now there's two places. And so they seem to do really well. Yeah. They're always
Yeah.
busy.
They started out here. We've got a similar season. Up through November, most of the time it's pretty good. But once December, January, and February come, and part of March, it sucks. Like you said, you can have a 70-degree day, and 2 days later you'll have 6 inches of snow on the ground. Usually, the Masters is our kind of kickoff for official golf season around here. So I don't know how it is there, but that's what it happens here. Okay, so I got some fun questions for you here. If you could play a round of golf, Jared, with one of your golfing heroes, who would it be?
Man, that's such a tough question for me to always answer. I mean, maybe this isn't a great answer, but I'd love to play another round with my grandpa. He
Sure.
really is a hero, and I love playing a lot of golf with him.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, in that case, if you could get a lesson from a touring pro, they can still be on tour or they could step off the tour, man or woman. Who would that be that you would like to get a lesson from?
Man, I got a lesson from Graham McDowell like 2 years ago, and that was amazing. Um, I mean, this is a vanilla answer, but I would love to get a lesson from Tiger.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that. So, Jared, if we declared you supreme leader of golf for one day, what would you decree as supreme leader?
I'd get rid of in course out of bounds.
Okay. Okay. I think you're the first one that's ever said that.
I can't stand it. I have a bad taste in my mouth. Growing up in rural Iowa, there's a lot of 9-hole courses. There's a lot of in course out of bounds. So
All right.
I made some doubles in high school hitting in course out of bounds.
I love it. When you were playing collegiately and earlier, what was the biggest mistake you ever made in a tournament?
My very last college tournament, Missouri Valley Conference Championship, signed for the wrong scorecard.
Oh,
And that was a Dairy Queen back then.
yeah. Yeah, I got it. I got
Yep.
it. If we put Jared's skills to music, what would the music be?
Oh boy, my golf skills to music.
Yeah.
Uh, I like to say like something like Coldplay, but that's not gonna like they're just so smooth. I try to have good tempo and be smooth around the golf course.
Yeah. Mine was always like Sabbath and Paranoid, all over the place. So
Yeah.
like that. Um, you're fairly new at the manufacturing business, but what do you think is the toughest part of your job? And compare that to what you thought the toughest part of your job was when you were a sales manager
Yeah.
outside of your own business.
Toughest part of the job is as a one person business is just managing your self doubt.
Mhm.
It's something that happens every day. Am I doing the right thing? Am I going to be able to support my family? All those questions kind of run through your head. When my prior role, I didn't have those questions because I had a paycheck. I think Mark Cuban said it, JT. I think he said, maybe it wasn't Mark Cuban, but somebody said something along the lines of, the biggest threat to entrepreneurship is a paycheck. And what they mean by that is we're comfortable.
Yeah.
And so, but on the flip side of that, for me, I'm trying to manage self-doubt every single day. And, luckily getting better at that. I don't think that'll ever go away. I think having some form of paranoia is maybe a good thing, and wanting to get better is a good thing, but it's a challenge.
I can tell you from personal experience, it never goes away completely. But if you capitalize on it and learn to harness it, you can do some great things. So you're right on track there. If Jared, if you could dine with a historical figure, who would it be and what would be on the menu?
Historical figure, Abraham Lincoln. Um, why? I share the same birthday with him, and I just recently watched a documentary on him. I thought it was very interesting. What would we eat? Man, let's go some brisket.
Yeah, sure. You got great Iowa beef back there, and he was next door in Illinois, so
Yeah,
and Kentucky, I guess. So yeah, it's all good. Do you remember the first time you ever picked up a golf club?
I don't. I don't remember the first time. I remember probably my first year or so playing golf in my front yard with my dad. We had a cornfield next to our house.
Yeah,
We lived in a neighborhood, but it's very, very common in Iowa to live in a neighborhood than like
there's
10
a
yards away
cornfield. Yeah,
from the
yeah.
cornfield. So we would hit balls into that cornfield. Now we would go pick them up, just so everyone knows. But yeah, I remember that. That was a ton of fun. Remember it like yesterday.
Yeah, those are fun. We used to hit them. I grew up on a horse farm, and we would hit them. I would hit them over the fence into the pasture, and we had a dog that would go shag them for me. And
No,
she never brought them completely back, but she'd bring them within maybe 10 feet of you, and then she'd drop them and run off. But it saved you a lot of steps like that.
yeah.
Uh, Jared, what's one thing you miss about your time in college or your 20s?
Time in college, boy, but we had so much fun in college. And we worked really hard. I think college was just you had like one or two things to focus on. And if you really focus on those things really, really hard, you'd be good at them. Now there's many things to focus on. There's,
Hmm.
wife, kids, a job, and they all take your time different ways. And um, I think for me, it's been that challenge of finding that level of focus of where it needs to be focused. In the last year or so. So I think if I went back to college, yeah, for sure, so along those lines.
Oh yeah, yeah. Mine was waking up when you were supposed to be studying and you didn't, and you'd had other activities the night, but you could still get up and hit the street. I couldn't do that now.
Yeah.
That
No,
would
I can't. I couldn't do that either.
I would be it would be pretty hard. Um, this is kind of a philosophical question, but do you think golf can actually help kids who have trouble learning math or with math skills? I'm not talking about calculus like Tiger did when he was, plotting a shot in his mind, but we have pretty simple math in the golf world, and but there's a lot of kids out there that struggle with it because of their curriculums or what have you today, no fault of their own. But I, I'd like to get your take on that. I've always thought it could help kids.
Absolutely. I come from a line of teachers. So my mom was a teacher, my aunts and uncles teachers, my grandmother a teacher. And so for me, seeing my mom, teach me things different ways was really, really important to me growing up. And um, for me to learn, I'm a visual learner. And so there's a lot of people like me that to be able to learn, they have to do or they have to
Hmm.
see. And so if you go out and play and you count your strokes as a young junior, that can become applicable for math. And then we start adding those up, made a 5 here, made a 5, 4 there. What does that equal? Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Um, Here's always a fun one. We're almost to the end here. So, what would your last meal be on death row?
Again, I'm going to go brisket on a Traeger grill with some mashed potatoes, some
All
cheesy
right.
potatoes on the grill.
And you can eat all you want.
100%. Yeah.
There's no calorie limit on that day for some,
Yeah.
So do you have a favorite movie? Classic movie? Mine's Casablanca, but I'm older than you are, but that's kind of gets you steered in the right direction there.
I'm kind of weird, Jeff. Like when I watch one movie, I like won't watch it again. Like I don't know why, but if I had to pick a favorite movie, I love Tin Cup. I love Tin Cup because
Yeah.
first of all it's great humor, and then secondly he's an underdog in that U.S. Open there, and doesn't pull it off, but just the storyline of that I can kind of relate to in my life. I'll never not be an underdog. I'll always have that mentality, and I kind of can kind of relate to that a little bit, I suppose.
Sure. Sure. I get it. I get it. Um, Anything you would change in your life or something you regret that you'd like to go back and fix if you could?
No, I've been very fortunate. Since I was 19, I've been very fortunate, and I've made a lot of good decisions. So the number one decision is marrying my wife. So she's put me on a good path going forward. So no, I've lived no major regrets in my life right now. Now it's kind of why I started Hana Golf, because to go back to the philosophical stuff, we don't know how we're going to die, and what I didn't want to have happen is keep traveling down the road of the corporate world, and then next thing you know, you're 65, retired, and your doctor tells you got a year to live, and you're like, shit, I wish I would have started that business.
Yeah.
And so, that's one of the things again where I wanted to pull the trigger on this and not have regret. I know I won't have regret going forward with doing this business.
Good for you. Jared Doerfler from Hana Golf. Throw your website and stuff and your social media at him one more time, please, Jared.
HanaGolf.com, HANNA golf.com. And it's Hana Golf Co. On Instagram and Twitter.
Excellent. I want to thank you very much for taking the time to be with us. I'm glad I got a chance to talk to you. I'm fascinated by this, and we'll be checking back. And good luck with everything.
Jeff, thanks so much for having me. And sorry I had to battle through this head cold that my 2-year-old gave me from daycare, but it's fun chatting with you, and I really enjoyed it. Thanks for having me on.
Anytime, my friend. We'll be back next week with another After Hours here on Grilling at the Green. Until then, go out, play some golf, have some fun, and most of all, be kind. Take care, everybody.